Hi, so this is Video Journal 8.3, and I will be discussing the kinds of learning situations in which we rely on rote memorization. Do you use memorization in some subjects more than others? Do you use it more when you don't understand what you're learning? And I will be describing the strategies you use to make connections between new and learned information. And some of this information is coming from Educational Psychology, written by Woolfolk, and it was in 2019. Okay, so rote memorization is based on repetition. When repeating material, learning takes place as more and more repeating takes place. In my opinion, rote memorization is something that is used mostly when learning the foundational skills to a certain concept. For example, in order to successfully read, a student might memorize letter sounds. Memorizing letter sounds may set students up for success when it comes to reading a whole word. According to what is rote learning, rote memorization may be used when attempting to memorize conceptual knowledge for an upcoming exam. When students are new to learning multiplication facts, they may rely on rote memorization in order to quickly solve common equations that they see on a daily basis. I think that rote learning, I keep saying remote learning. I think that rote learning can be used in any subject. It just depends on the goal of the learning. So rote learning could be used in science to memorize the periodic table of elements. It could also be used in language arts and math, as mentioned above, for multiplication facts and letter sounds. So I do think that more opportunities arise for rote memorization to be used in subjects where you can simply memorize the material and pass the test. I think that teachers could encourage students to understand and use higher order thinking by not making their tests solely based on memorization. So for example, instead of a question being 3 times 2, teachers could present students with a word problem that says there are 3 groups in the classroom and each group has 2 students. How many students are in the classroom? I think that this format requires students to kind of understand the concept of multiplication rather than memorize the answer. I personally use rote learning and memorization more when I don't understand the concept. So I kind of rely on that when I don't, fully grasp that deeper meaning. So some strategies I use to make connections between new and learned information is to examine how they're related. At the elementary level, I will use the example of division and multiplication. So I remember when I finally understood the deeper connection between multiplication and division, I kind of said to myself, okay, so I'm dividing the product by a chosen factor in this related multiplication problem, and I get the other factor as an answer, and that's when it kind of clicked for me. So understanding how concepts are related within a subject is a great place to start. Woolfolk, page 324, states that elaboration is adding meaning to new information by connecting with already existing knowledge. So when concepts are elaborated, they are they're easier to recall later on in life. So teachers can encourage elaboration by having students create example problems, translate information into their own words, or explain the concept to a peer. Next, organization in learning involves practices such as chunking, placing information in some type of visual graphic organizer. Imagery is yet another strategy that produces more effective learning. Teachers could also pair visual and verbal materials, and that is referred to as dual coding.